What is up? What is good? The Wolf is back once again with another Let's Talk video. In this one, we're going to be going over the impact of early review press copies of games. Now, I just want to put on record, I've never worked in game development or released a game personally, so this video is from like an outsider's POV. I've read and heard of a lot of, mixed info on all this stuff, from behind the scenes, people working in PR teams and all that stuff. It's just every company, every publisher, they all have their own different ways of releasing games and putting out early release copies, putting out, interviews in magazines and video interviews and all that stuff. So every company has their own different way of doing business and all that. But this is just like an overall of like what I'm seeing in the industry right now. So the main topic of this video is just the fact that early review copies of games, they are going out way too early. So we are seeing like almost a full week before games are even released in like the earliest time zone in the world. You're seeing full playthroughs of it on YouTube. You're seeing in comment sections, spoilers and everything else. I'm going to get to all these different points though in the video. So, as I said, spoilers across the internet, any comment section, whether it be social media or YouTube or Twitch or whatever, anywhere is where anybody can type in words into a comment section. When a game gets released a full week early, you end up seeing spoilers and stuff that just takes the breath right out of the storyline, and like a big chunk of the game gets kind of just flatlined because you already know what's going to happen because these spoilers are rampant. Just recently, there was a major release that just happened, and literally the roster was leaked. The gameplay, the story mode of the game was out there for the world to see on social media, and actually 2 games had that happen to it and everything. So basically any platform that you can post a video or review on it seems like more and more people are trying to do spoilers in the hopes of just getting that initial reaction for their own pleasure. From the public, not just the friends, but just everybody in the world. Whether it be for likes, shares, or they're just trolling just to get that reaction of like, haha, I screw up somebody's day by posting spoilers out there. And yeah, it's just, it's totally all this hard work that is going into all these experiences, all these games and everything. It's totally putting like a dagger in that, of like this spoiler hammer of just like, haha, I'm going to cut half the fun out of you finding this piece of part of the game for yourself. There it is. Now, I get the satisfaction of it myself. And it's like, oh. So one of the major games that literally just came out was Mortal Kombat 11. The roster was leaked way early. Also happened with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite too. So the big thing in fighting games is the roster. Is your favorite character going to make it into the fighting game? It's not about the stage. It is about the story mode, whether or not there's a reason for everybody to be fighting and whatnot. But the roster is probably one of the main ingredients that makes the magic of a fighting game. Mortal Kombat 11, like I said, the roster was leaked it's like months early by somebody internally. That was a different situation than really what I'm talking about here. But the big one was like, okay, so the story mode spoilers all over the place. Twitter was full of them because people had the game a full week early and they just didn't care. They were just posting videos and clips of the whole thing. Instagram was another big one too, where people were just posting everywhere. I'm not saying that we can't post gameplay videos on social media and put them on YouTube and everything. My big thing is the point of the companies letting people have their hands on the game way too early. It's not really the content creators or the trolls or the spoiler culture's fault. It comes down to who's letting them have the chance to even do that in the first place. So there was, I remember specifically on Twitter, it was a pro player or something. They literally posted up a screenshot and it was Frost's face from Mortal Kombat 11. I can say that now because the game is out. but it was literally Frost right there. They hadn't done a combat cast for Frost or anything, so Frost was literally not even. We didn't even know if the character was going to be in the game or not. If it was actually, because it was on the leak roster, but it was not officially talked about at all. And their caption on the picture was, I didn't know Ninja was in this game because Frost has blue hair, so and Ninja is known for having blue hair. I'm like, that's just like, come on, you're literally just trying to give away secrets of the game just to see people go, ooh. So a few others that I definitely have seen some very close to major spoilers for online and on YouTube and everything, with like YouTube thumbnails being a problem also, because they are posting literally the moment of the major plot twist is their thumbnail just for that click. Or just to troll people that are on YouTube, where it pops up in your suggested videos side thing, which was Devil May Cry 5, Resident Evil 2 Remake, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, The Division 2. I've seen all those games have, you know, moments of like in their storylines and everything, and these plot twist moments in the gameplay of them being posted up on to social media and YouTube and everything, and it literally being like a full week before the game was released. Like, come on, you know, how do they even get their hands on this? On top of that, when I was doing a legacy playthrough of the Devil May Cry series leading up to Devil May Cry 5, I was playing through one of the Devil May Cries, one of the older ones, one of the original trilogy, the original 3, and somebody drops in the chat and they're like, oh, hey, guess what? Such and such characters fight, and, you know, and that literally ended up being the last battle in the game. That was the plot twist of like the character being, you know, shown, and like this whole thing, you know, a dynamic of all the characters coming together and everything. And the person's like, oh yeah, this happens, and I have footage on my Instagram if you want to check it out. And it's like, why would I want to check that out? The game's not out yet. I have not played through it. I have not seen it for myself. I have not experienced it myself. You were literally just trying to like troll basically in the chat. That stuff needs to stop. We need to put an end to that, because really one of the major things about that is like smaller content creators, and especially streamers without access to these early copies, we kind of get screwed over in a way. And this subject has been discussed extensively on social media, namely Twitter and Reddit, multiple times from both sides, you know, arguing and debating over whether or not early release copies are a good thing or if they are a bad thing. And I don't think it's good or bad. I think it's just the way that it's being handled. That's what really needs to be changed. You know, everybody would love to get the game early and be fortunate enough to check the game out before everyone else. So you do have this like, and another thing too, like, why are people not being like, I know it happens, instead of being like, oh, here's what happens, and just blur it out? Like, oh, that whole thing of somebody, you know that there's going to be a big reaction, so you look for it in that person. And then or just the public overall, and then when the public sees it and this whole big reaction blows up, it's like, I knew that was going to be a really cool, part that everybody was just, so you actually know what to look for, not just spoiling it for everyone else. It makes no sense why people would want to do spoilers like that, So to go back to it though, just take one step back. I don't know. I feel when the bigger name content creators play games before the rest of the public, especially a full week before, like some of the YouTubers, they get games and they post the whole playthrough literally like days before the earliest release and anywheres in the world in any time zone. They already had the full playthrough up and everybody's already seen the full playthrough of it. It really does feel like it almost makes the smaller streamers obsolete in playing the game during the initial launch night or launch day release, both from the streamer's point and also the publisher's point, because you're one, cutting attention off from smaller streamers that could be there. You are kind of cutting that and cutting, you're handcuffing us with that. On the PR side of things, for free promotion, it's like, well, why should I even stream the game early if people have already seen it? So you're kind of cutting your own self with losing that free promotion for the game that could be there. If people really love the game, like I've seen Days Gone going through right now, of critical reviews are ridiculously negative, but people are absolutely loving the game. When they sit down and actually try it out for themselves, they're actually enjoying it. Again, I'll get into that in a little bit of like why I think Days Gone actually had a very good launch, and they avoided all this trouble, but still are, from word of mouth, the game is getting around and having a really good run. So another point too, for like when these bigger content creators do release a full playthrough of the game a week early, it also sets up this environment for like spoilers in streams and comment sections and chats and Twitter threads, Reddit threads, whatever. As I was saying before, of somebody coming into my chat, dropping the spoiler for DMC5, Devil May Cry 5. So I don't know. In my experience with early access to betas, I have personally also been, on a beta standpoint, I've been on both sides. Yes, it is fun to show off games early and see people coming in being like, is this game good? What's your thoughts on it? But that's what I really love, though, is when people ask me, what's your thoughts on it? Because I don't say this game is bad or good. I just I'm not trying to sell you the game. I'm just promoting the game. So the way I do it personally myself is I say, here's what's good and bad about the game. If you like this and you think the goods outweigh the bads, definitely check it out. Give it a try, a purchase, whatever. Or maybe wait for it to go on sale, because it might be good to check out, but not at full price. So with that point of view, I also say that review copies of games are a very useful tool for the marketing and promotional purposes, because it does definitely show off the gameplay and what the game has to offer. Whether you want to buy it or whether you want to check it out later when it's on sale and whatnot. Is it worth the time to get invested in it? Is it worth the time and the money, especially nowadays with things costing so much? So in some cases, games don't showcase well, but they are fun to play, which that means if a game doesn't look really good, but when you get into it, you're like, hey, this is actually not too bad. Like the gameplay itself is pretty fun, even though the game does look kind of on the rougher, it's rough around the edges on the visual part of it or something. Like Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite was a very excellent thing of the game looks like trash. It really does. Like the graphics are not good. The storyline is like, ugh. But the gameplay is actually a lot of fun. When you get into it, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do in there. Another one too, a lot of people were kind of trashing RDR for being like this like walking simulator or whatever. But when you actually get into the game, there's so much detail. There's so much personality and just this whole family dynamic and how you have to look after your horse and have these gunfights and shootouts and just this perfect blend of everything in the world coming together to make it really feel like it's alive. The game might look kind of boring, but when you actually jump into it for yourself, it is a crazy ride because you have pretty much full control over what's happening. Which way you go, what people you shoot at and don't want to shoot at and everything. Another one too is like earlier Fallouts, like Fallout 76. Put that one aside. Earlier Fallouts than that, the game looked rough. I mean, Fallout games have always kind of looked rough from an outsider's point of view. They look kind of like just you're running around and just kind of just exploring and not really doing much. But I've had some of the craziest moments, like Fallout 4. That was another game that got very bad reviews, but and I seen it in the early review copies of the game, which I'm like, wow. So okay, you can there's a bunch of different factions in here, like other Fallout games or Bethesda games overall. But the review copy was also showing me that there's a lot more tools in this game, and yes, the graphics might not be the best, but there is some fun to be had in the gameplay itself. So to bring it back around, yes, the review copies of games are actually really good to have out there, but not too early, which that's having the games out too early to press, or too much of the game being shown off, and giving too much of an opportunity for the games to be shown off too much. That's the main issue, I think. And in some scenarios, in some cases, the game looks really awesome in the trailer, and then when you actually check out full gameplay of it, it's like, oh, this is like the trailer just made it look really good. Somebody would have really good editing skills and just took the fun little 3 or 4 parts that just happen over and over and over again that you might get bored of a few hours in, and just made that 1 minute trailer look really cool. You have both sides of it where review copies of games are very helpful on either, whether or not the game is worth the time and money. For some people, they just like running around in a game world, not having to go through all the storyline stuff and everything else. That is one very helpful piece. If you only have 15 minutes a night or something to play a game and you just want to jump into a game world and that's it, boom, bang, boom, it's done. You don't have to run through cutscenes and everything else. Review copies are good, for figuring out those types of games also. So to go back to a really well done one though, to end this part of the video on a high note, as I said, Days Gone I thought was really well done. We didn't see too much. We got just enough gameplay to show like, okay, this is the game mechanics. There's still a lot more game mechanics that they never showed off in the game. I haven't finished Days Gone. I've gotten probably maybe a fourth of the way through it, if that, like just to the next settlement over. But just seeing like little clips that, like little 30-second clips that people are making of their own gameplay that are not really showing off anything spoilery or anything. I think that Days Gone, I called it a sleeper hit before it came out, and I think that's exactly what it's being. Critics are trashing the game, but people that are actually playing it, like I said, are actually really liking it. And I think the reason why the critics are really trashing is because there wasn't really a week before the game came out. There wasn't like this huge playthrough of it and whatnot. And basically I think the critics and the reviewers didn't really get a sense of like, oh, does the public really hate this game or really love it because of that? And so they have no idea how to review the game anymore. So everybody's actually, they're using their own brain to be like, I actually like this, while these reviewers are like, no, this is the worst thing ever. So hopefully that trend starts happening a lot more. There was the only real big stream I seen of Days Gone, or like big full playthrough of it, was the long video that they did, and that was literally themselves putting that video out there, not some other streamer or anything. And it was like a 30-minute video of like, okay, this is what we're working on. And it didn't really show too much of story mode or anything. It was literally just the game itself playing. And then people thought it was kind of slow pace and whatnot. They reworked that, and now the game came out even better. They showed just enough to be like, okay, do you guys like this? No? Okay, we'll work on it. We'll take three months extra to work on it and everything. So that was a very well done launch of Days Gone. And now you're starting to see all the reviews and everything coming out, but you're also seeing all the playthroughs and everything. So people are still getting their views and all that stuff. They are coming through, the viewership is still there for people because they want to see their favorite content creator play into the game and whatnot. But it wasn't spoiled. Like everything that's been happening in story mode, I'm like, this is very refreshing. I didn't know this was going to happen. This is happening. Oh no, I am going into this part of the game where it's supposed to be really scary and creepy. Do I need this big gun or not? I don't know what's going to happen next. And that is like that is the moment that, ooh, that's the good gold gaming moment of like, I don't know what's going to happen next. So on to the next part of the Let's Talk video, which is the final part of the Let's Talk video, is the how to fix the problem. And I think I've kind of already said that a couple times over again in this video, but just to fully put it out there. Okay, so scale back the date of early copies being sent out, and when I say sent out, I do mean one specific way of sending the game out. But scale back the date of early copies being sent out to maybe like 24 to 48 hours before the official midnight release or early access of the game. as in like the early access, like EA access has like a week before the game is out. Everybody gets can jump into an early access free trial of the game. That is a very special situation because everybody has access to that. You can drop $5 down on it, bam, you can jump into that game and experience it for yourself. So that is not so much spoiler. It's just, do you want to check out the game? And you can do it on your own terms. Everybody has like an hour or so of the campaign, and then you can check out the gameplay to see if you like the gameplay. That's actually where I think EA Access does a very good job at showcasing EA's games. EA's developers definitely need to step up the game and actually make good products, but the PR team for EA is actually on the ball with EA Access. Just my opinion. Or also deluxe edition early access too, because some games have the deluxe edition. You get 48 hours early access to it. So 24 to 48 hours before the official midnight release of the game. And to fully clarify, I mean 48 hours, up to 48 hours or whatever, because I think 72 hours is kind of like, that's almost 3 days that you have to be wary of spoilers. That's a little bit too long. 2 days before, you can kind of manage that. So 48 hours before the earliest time zone in the world, because there are early time zones where they're almost a day ahead of my time zone. So what I'm saying is the earliest time zone in the world, 48 hours, boom. That's when we end up seeing some gameplay start to show up online and everything. Now, I know that can end up making like sending out disc copies of review copies harder for like shipping times and all that stuff. My thing is, everything is so digital nowadays. Just do digital codes. So that's less hassle of shipping discs out, but also it makes sure that you have a lot more control over the situation of when people are playing the game and putting out the content for the game early. So send out digital codes only for review copies and make the game only available to download 24 to 48 hours before the official midnight release, which meaning like EA was it EA Origins, Bethesda clients, Steam, PlayStation Store, Xbox Live, all the platforms that you can download the game from. Make sure that they do not have it available to download until 24 to 48 hours before the official midnight release. That way, you can't have anybody being like, oh, the disc just got sold at a mom and pop store or whatever, and then boom. Now, that is definitely a big one also, the mom and pop stores that sell the game early. For that, I'll get into that in a second, though. If you do only digital review copies, anybody that's like a collector, like content creators that are collectors, which that there's a lot of them that are, and they do like to buy games, they can go through and buy a copy of, it makes them have to buy a physical copy of the game. So then you still receive that purchase, that one purchase of the game. I mean, if you got 1,000 different content creators, that's 1,000 different copies of the game you're selling. That helps. Now, would that also make for more reviews and progress? Yes. But in the long run, I think that also helps promote the game, because really reviewers nowadays, they tend to be more critical than like constructive with their criticism, and therefore I think that it keeps turning people off from games instead of showing everyone the signs of how to find good games, instead of just being like, oh, this game sucks, that's it. Every game sucks now with reviewers and critics. That's basically their job. Like, reviewers are not reviewers anymore. They're just critics. They are there to trash talk your product, and then it comes down to the word of mouth of gamers to actually be like, okay, but there's so many people that go by reviewers still. Like, they go by that number that is associated with the game. This game is an 8 out of 10. Maybe I'll pick it up. It's a 10 out of 10. I absolutely have to pick it up. This game is only a 4 out of 10. I will never touch that. I will never even look at that game. They don't even give it a chance at that point. And I see that so many times in Twitch chats and everything. So, of course, a good game is still just a certain person's opinion. Like my opinion of a good game is different than your opinion of a good game. Maybe you agree with me on some stuff. You probably disagree with me on a lot of other things. So, good is a very like relative term to the person. But also, that's the reason why I like doing Let's Talks, to try and put out the signs of like, okay, this is a sign that the game is doing something right. This is a sign of the game that is probably doing something wrong. Of whether the game is broke or whether it works right or it's going to do what you think it's going to do, what it's showing that it's going to do. Is it going to be exactly that? Now, another big one too, to just clear the air. A lot of people always like to yell at like Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo and stuff directly, or developers especially directly. Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, they own the hardware and they own certain developer teams that make the games just for their hardware. Now you also have publishers. Now the publishers are the ones that's the PR team. The public relations for the developer is the publisher. They're the ones that give the funding, and they are also usually the ones with the PR team that give out review codes. It's not the developers. Now the developers might know somebody in the PR team that will have the PR team give content creators early codes, but from what I know anyways, because I don't even get early review codes myself. Like I'm not big enough to be there getting the early access. I get a lot of beta codes. I get lucky at that basically. But from what I understand, from what I've heard a lot of streamers talking about and everything, is they get their codes from the publishers, not the developers. They get it from the PR team, not the like From Software Studio or the Bethesda Studio and this and that stuff. Although I think Bethesda does have their own PR team, like Rockstar and stuff like that. And whenever you see somebody with ad sponsored stream, sponsored by, that name, like if it's sponsored by Rockstar, then it's probably a Rockstar PR team member that is giving them that code. If it's Bethesda sponsored stream, it's Bethesda's PR team that's giving them that code. So you're looking at the PR team to make the change, and really these changes, they're going to happen in the conference meetings of each individual publisher. That's a lot of different marketing, conference meetings and everything. So this change is not an easy one to get made. This is probably one of the hardest ones to get made, actually. But I'm just trying to get word out there, just get the idea floating around. Now, some publishers, they do already have an NDA, which says you can only show off gameplay or certain parts of chapters or storylines in games for the reason of spoilers. Some publishers are already on this thing. I know that Bethesda is not doing any more early review copies of their games. I don't know if that's so much for spoiler or is because they don't want to show the game off because their last couple releases were kind of but, it just goes to show that different publishers work different ways. I've also seen, too, where streamers, you can only play up to a certain mission. A lot of times that's how it goes. You can only play up to mission 3, and then you can't show off anymore, or chapter 3 in their game, and you can't show off anymore because of spoilers. And then I've also seen where some Nintendo publishers, they don't want you streaming or anything. Even like a week after the game has been out, they don't want you showing anything of the game still. Like, you play it and you don't show it at all. And in this, that's kind of a weird thing to think in this day and age. So a way that they can reinforce or enforce the rule is by platforms like PSN, Xbox Store, the Switch Shop, again, Bethesda's store, Origins, and all that stuff. Like any platform where you can download that game from, reinforce it by only allowing those downloads to happen at a certain time. And then you can only at a certain time is when you can only at a certain date and time, I should say, is when you can finally start downloading the review copy. Like I said, like 24 to 48 hours before, that'd be easy for everyone to avoid spoilers and everything. Just stay off from Twitter and the internet altogether for that 24 hours or whatever. And another big one too is the reinforcement of the ban hammer, as in, if you post footage before that NDA, date and time, start time is, you get the ban hammer. Your channel is gone. Mortal Kombat 11, NetherRealm Studios did a very big time just ban hammer on a bunch of streamers that were showing the game off too early. and a bunch of YouTube channels that we had spoilers running rampant, and a ton of Twitter pages, Instagram feeds, YouTube channels, Twitch channels. They all got hit by the ban hammer. Like NRS was not having anything to do with their game being shown off too early. Could that have been because of the crypt situation, the tower situation? Maybe, but it was mainly the story mode that was being shown off. So if you're thinking, oh, it was just because of the crypt, no, it was mainly because there was storyline spoilers that people really just want to experience the game themselves. They don't want to see it on somebody else's video or whatever. But yeah, them enforcing that ban hammer, more publishers and maybe even developers or PlayStation, Xbox, or Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo should be doing that also themselves. Just ban hammer the hell out of everyone. Meaning their social media teams start ban hammering everyone. So, anyways, that's basically the gist of what I got for this Let's Talk video. If I got any more thoughts on this situation, anybody else says anything on Twitter and it sparks an idea from my brain or whatever, I will post it on the Twitter. Definitely on the Twitter. That's basically where I do a lot of little venting, a little bit of ranting and all that stuff. But yeah, if you have any, I'm going to leave the comments on for this video. If you have any thoughts or comments on this yourself, share them down below. This is one of these rare occasions where I'm like, yeah, go for it, But yeah, that's the Let's Talk for this video. Thanks for checking it out. You can hit that thumbs up, that like and share and all that good stuff. But I will see ya next time.